I want to start this video with a question. Why did I buy these 22 volumes of Monty Python's Flying Circus videotapes? I did love the television series. But when it was released on home video, it was airing weekly on every PBS station. It was also airing on TBS several times a week, MTV every weeknight, Bravo, and USA Network multiple times a week, and on several other cable channels. I didn't need to watch it on videotape because it aired all the time. And yet, I spent over $350 on tapes that take up a hell of a lot of shelf space, just to have the same shows I could watch for free on television. So, why did I buy them? The answer to that question is the same answer as to why anyone else of my generation bought physical media. And is why anyone out there who prefers streaming and digital media over physical will someday regret not investing in physical media. I am one of the supporters of physical media. Yes, I can see how convenient it is to have digital copies of a movie, book, video game or music rather than have cartridges, discs, and paper taking up shelf space. How easier it is to download and get immediately what would otherwise involve a trip to the store, perhaps even more than one store, or waiting days for the physical media I purchased to either arrive or be officially lost in the mail. And I realize my collection of physical media includes books I will never read again, music I will never listen to again, games I will not play again, and movies and television shows I will never watch again. But if I knew for sure exactly which of those I will never want to use again, I would gladly sell them on eBay. When I bought those 22 Monty Python tapes, it wasn't just so the 1980s me could watch them, but so the 2021 me could watch them as well. Of course, the 2000s me bought the entire series on DVD, while the 2020 me bought the series again on Blu-ray. So it is very unlikely 2021, or even a 3021 me would ever watch the Pythons on VHS again. At this point their value has shifted to collectible. And no, not all of my physical media are considered collectibles. I have gotten rid of a lot of media whenever I upgraded. Which is another argument in favor of digital media. The format it is used on could easily become obsolete, forcing you to buy the same media again for the new format. But with all the advantages of digital media, I still have my reasons for sticking to physical media. I have already mentioned one of them. Collectability. The VHS format may be gone, but I still own copies of the tapes, which I could hold on to because I am a big fan of the show, or sell on eBay to another fan of the show. And if they become rare, sell them at a profit. I can't do that with a digital copy of Monty Python. There is no decorative box to look at, to possess, or sell to a collector. All I would have is a string of numbers hidden away on a computer chip. Of course, format change means nothing to the granddad of all physical media, and that is the written word. Even after a century you can still read Mark Twain. And since books only require your eyes and reading ability, you can easily read a 145-year-old copy of Tom Sawyer, as easily as you can read a copy printed this year. The books on my shelf could potentially be on the shelves of my great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren 200 years from now, provided they are taken care of. Kindle books can't be passed down through generations. I doubt any copy of a Kindle book has lasted as long as a decade. Video games, home video, and music, all are bound to the machines designed to play them. Laserdiscs may have been designed to last over 100 years, but without a laserdisc player they are useless. And since they were designed to play on analog televisions and not modern sets, the picture is compromised when upconverted. Even though your laser discs were manufactured to outlast you, you are still better off replacing them with the latest format. And yet, with old physical media relying on old machines still working, and often work best on obsolete televisions, I still have reason to keep them. I never asked for my physical media to last thousands of years. I only ask that they last my entire life. When I am old and gray, I want to still be able to use them. And the reason why I want to use them on the old format instead of the latest format is not out of stubbornness, but the simple fact that they are often not available on any other format. I have a lot of videos released on VHS that were never re-released on any further home video format. Games released on old gaming platforms which were not ported to any other game system. And vinyl albums that were never released on CD. This all adds up. The shelf space for the physical media, as well as the ever-climbing wall of electronics to play them. A turntable for my vinyl records. A cassette player for my cassettes. The deck both are connected to which also has an AM/FM radio, and is further connected to two large speakers. A VCR to play VHS tapes. A CD player. A Laserdisc player. A Blu-ray player that also plays DVDs. 4 different game consoles. And a flat-screen television. Not to mention the various devices needed to connect everything together, as well as the confusing maze of cables connecting everything. The desktop and all its attached devices has its own desk. It has disk drives making it capable of playing CDs, DVDs, and PC video games. And there are also film projectors, both for 16mm and Super 8, along with reels of film to play on them. Stashed somewhere in some boxes I haven't touched in decades. And there are books. Although segregated to their own library in the attic. That is a lot of space taken up, which I could easily do away with if I switched to digital. I have nothing against digital. It is basically a more convenient version of Blockbuster Video, one where you don't need to leave your house, don't need to return anything, and the movie or game you want to see is never temporarily out of stock. My only problem with it is ownership. Digital copies are usually bound to the device they are uploaded to. Should the device break, you lose everything you had downloaded onto it. You cannot legally move the media to a second device. With my Python tapes, if a VCR broke, I could simply play them in the next VCR I bought. One thing that I have never gotten a straight answer on is, can the company I downloaded the media from take it back or render it unusable? Let's say a studio decides to remove a movie from circulation, either over a copyright dispute, or some act of political correctness, or they are Disney, and they just want to send one of their films back into the vault. Is it possible for them to remove some sort of code that allowed the media to be played, so even though it is downloaded onto a device, the device can no longer play it? No one seems to know for sure. But what they do know is that it will disappear from the online store, which means it can no longer be downloaded again. There is a limit to how many books can exist on a Kindle, how many songs an iPod can store, how many games can be downloaded to a PlayStation. Eventually you run out of space, so need to delete media in order to add new media. With a store, you can download media you already paid for an unlimited amount of times to the same device. Not just media you deleted for space, but media that was corrupted and needs to be reinstalled. Removing the media from the store means it can no longer be reinstalled. To keep it, you have to hope it isn't accidentally deleted, hope it isn't corrupted over time, and hope the device never breaks. Of course, most of you aren't even considering purchasing media. Why buy media when you subscribe to a streaming service? If you ever want to see that movie or television show again, then just find it on the menu. And if your streaming service no longer has it, just subscribe to the streaming service it moved to. There is no good reason to own media in this day and age when technology makes it all available whenever you want it. By this time, those of you who guessed why I spent the $350 on Monty Python videos, know why relying on streaming services is short-sighted. So, let's just answer that question. Monty Python's Flying Circus first debuted on PBS stations in 1974, thanks to the syndication company Time Life Television, who imported it from England. It immediately picked up a cult following, and PBS stations were willing to rebroadcast the same episodes over and over again as American Python fans kept pledging money. In 1975, ABC purchased the broadcast rights to the final 6 episodes from Time Life and proceeded to edit them into 2 90-minute specials. The members of Monty Python did not give ABC permission to edit the episodes and filed a lawsuit. ABC threatened to sue Time Life, who in turn threatened to sue the BBC. The entire mess was settled out of court, with ABC promising never to broadcast the specials again, the BBC giving up all rights to the series to the Pythons, and Time Life agreeing to cease syndication of the series in the fall of 1979, after which the Pythons would get the North American broadcast rights to their show. In October of 1979, all broadcast rights to Monty Python's Flying Circus expired, and for the first time in 5 years PBS stations ceased airing it. The Pythons had hoped to find a new media company to syndicate the show in North America. But after the religious controversy of the movie Life of Brian, no syndication company would go near Monty Python. It was no longer on the air. It was gone. Probably for good. It would be another 4 long years before a syndicator was found, and Monty Python's Flying Circus was once again on American television. This is why Monty Python fans made sure they had the series on VHS the second they owned a VCR. Either by taping it off of PBS, or buying the home video release. They had experienced the loss of Monty Python. Getting copies on VHS ensured they would have the show should it ever go away again. That is the one thing the current generation has not experienced yet. The loss of media. They don't yet know what it is like for a favorite television series to be cancelled and to never be syndicated. Or for a hit song to run its course and no longer get airplay on the radio. Or for a book to go out of print, and someone didn't return the final copy in the library. My generation did. Monty Python is just one example. We lost countless television shows. We lost some of our favorite songs. We lost a lot of media. Some of it has recently returned in digital format. But not all of it. For the current generation, their entire experience has been that all media ends up available in digital format, and never goes away. So why bother owning a physical copy when it is on the cloud somewhere? This will not always be the case. There will be rights disputes, licensing disagreements, and other legal issues that result in media getting pulled. And there is the ever-present cancel culture that will see to it anything considered politically incorrect will be removed from digital. Even entire series and movies pulled if one of the actors in it does something considered bad. Many will eventually experience a day when one of their favorite songs, movies, television shows or games is no longer available digitally. Their first experience of losing media. Eventually not owning a physical copy of their favorite media will be seen as a risk. They will regret not buying physical media sooner once they see how much the price on eBay is jacked up for anything out of print. That is, if it is even still available on eBay. Having media pulled from streaming is just one danger. Having it altered is another. The online version of the Grand Theft Auto games was missing the radio station songs found on the original physical media releases. This because the licensing for those songs ran out. Movies and television shows have had their soundtracks altered on streaming media releases for licensing issues. But there isn't just the risk of the removal of your favorite song from a soundtrack. There is also censorship. Scenes removed or digitally altered because today they are considered politically incorrect. And of course, there are times a different edit of a film replaces the original. The most obvious is with the Star Wars films, where the versions released in the 1970s and 80s are no longer available outside of their original physical media releases. I am not going to pretend altered edits or altered soundtracks didn't happen with physical media releases. But when you did purchase a physical media release of your favorite show or movie, in its original edit, then it would forever remain in that edit. Those who bought the Star Wars films on VHS or Laserdisc still own the original versions of those films. There is no way for George Lucas to change physical media that already exists. But will future generations get the opportunity to save their favorite edits of movies on DVD or Blu-ray if physical media is phased out? Media companies would prefer all digital distribution. Not just so they save money on manufacturing and distribution, and no longer need to share the profit with merchants. But that digital only allows them to inch closer to their ultimate goal of media being rental only. The flaw of selling physical media is that no law prevents those who buy it from reselling it. For example, the recording industry loses hundreds of millions a year to the used CD market. Why pay full price for the Taylor Swift CD when you could buy a used copy for a third of the price? If Taylor Swift music was only available via pay-per-listen streaming media, then theoretically her recording label could make more money than if they pressed and sold physical CDs, as they would no longer be competing against a used CD market for her fans' money. It was Hollywood who first attempted to make home media rental only. The first movies released on VHS retailed for around $90, and were meant to be sold to rental shops only, who would recoup the cost through about a month and a half of rental fees. They experimented with a VHS cartridge with a built-in erasable head. The idea was that the tape would self-erase after the movie was watched 5 times. But the technology turned out to be impractical and expensive. With DVDs came DivX. The DivX format was designed so that the movie could not be played unless the studio sent the DivX player a code. For $5 you got to watch the DivX you bought once, but then needed the DivX player connected to the internet, where you would pay the studio an additional $7 each time you wanted to unlock and re-watch the movie. Americans chose DVD over DivX, and the format was abandoned. The attempt to turn physical media into rental only came from a format called FlexPlay. FlexPlay discs were DVDs that were packaged in vacuum-sealed plastic envelopes. Once the envelopes were opened and the FlexPlay disc exposed to oxygen, they would begin to self-destruct, becoming unplayable about 48 hours later. Netflix didn't just kill off video rental stores like Blockbuster, it also brought an end to technology like FlexPlay. If Americans could be swayed to replace DVDs and Blu-rays with streaming, then eventually films could be available as rental only. This is not just the goal of movie studios, but all media. Music, literature, television series and video games, only available as rental. No longer a need to create self-destructing media. But with streaming media comes expense and risk of the film or movie being removed. Your daughter probably played that Frozen DVD you bought her over 100 times. Now imagine you were renting it instead. This is where paying less than $40 for the movie on physical media paid off, as it would have cost you around $400 for Netflix or in-demand rental fees. Today though, most streaming services offer subscription only, which at first seems a cheaper option than physical media. But factor in that content is no longer limited to Netflix. Each studio has launched its own streaming service. If you want Disney, 20th Century Fox, Star Wars or Marvel, it is all exclusive to Disney+. Star Trek, all CBS shows and Paramount films exclusive to Paramount+. There is also Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Hulu, HBO Max, Peacock, Shout Factory TV, and many others, all which have pulled content off of Netflix and made it exclusive to their streaming service. Getting all the streaming movies you want may involve renting to several streaming services, adding up to about $100 a month. Expect that expense to grow as new streaming services are launched and movies are further split up as exclusive. Even more when they raise their subscriptions. For me, there is no further cost of the movies I own. And while legal battles, rights issues and the cancel culture may have Disney or other studios permanently pull or edit their digital media on their streaming services, they cannot remove anything from my library. They are always there for me to revisit whenever I want. Physically on my shelf, a constant reminder that I forever own every film, book, game or music I have ever bought.